Order the full commission meeting of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission. Tonight is Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, 6:30 p.m. here at the Columbus Metropolitan Library at Hilltop Branch. I do not have, I've sent out about a week ago a copy of the agenda for this evening. Wanted to ask if there's any additions, deletions, anything that you would like to bring forward about the agenda for this evening. Okay, so hearing none, we'll go ahead and move ahead with the agenda as it stands. So the first item is to do a roll call. Who's here present at the meeting this evening? Secretary will do a roll call.
Ms. Bruno? Here. Mr. Fagan?
Here.
Ms. Kepler? Here. Ms. Klein? Here. Mr. Maddox?
Here.
I need to say Mr. Maddox now. Mr. Paxton?
Here.
Ms. Davis? Here. Mr. Ardner?
Here.
Mr. Stryker?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Present.
Ms. Gates Fry?
Here.
Ms. Kipley? Did I miss anyone?
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the minutes from the December meeting. Those are not prepared yet for us to review, so those will be presented at the next meeting for us to officially approve. Okay, I promised that the first item, well, it'd be at the City of Columbus staff report. So our Division of Police Sergeant Fred Brophy is on the agenda. I don't know if also.
I think he's stuck in Louisiana due to some weather travel issues.
He's stuck. Okay, so not able to attend the meeting tonight. I didn't hear from him. Normally he lets me know one way or the other. He's just awesome. But all right, so Zach, thank you for being here. You have an update for us next from the City Attorney's Office?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody, Zach Wynn with the Columbus City Attorney's Office, the zone attorney for the west side of the city. The only thing I think I had, we have a hearing tomorrow for property at 70 South Harris Avenue for abatement. I believe the property is already vacant, but it is for closure of the property to keep it vacant. This was the residence where the 1-year-old died of the fentanyl overdose. Had prior search warrants that had been executed there, and the owner had failed to abate, deal with the issues of the property. Beyond that, I don't think I have anything unless there are any questions.
What's the address on that now?
70 South Harris Avenue. That hearing is tomorrow, but I anticipate that it'll be an agreement to keep it closed.
Great. I'm hearing no questions there.
I
Okay.
have a quick question. This is not, I guess, relevant to the Hilltop neighborhood, but could you give us an update from your office on the latitude 25 apartments over on the east side? and how that's proceeding?
I stopped down in the courtroom today to see how they were going about, because I know today was for to have the receiver appointed so that they would essentially take the property. I didn't see an update from our office in terms of if a decision had been rendered, so I don't think there is an update yet, but I can make sure that you and the rest of the group have something. I'm sure there'll be a press release when, official decision is made, but, yeah, that South Park Apartments, we just reached a settlement on that case. That is one that I'm on. They've been responsive in terms of bringing the property up to code and making some additional security issues. So, been good on that.
Zach, the receiver is a local owner.
I believe the receiver is low. If it is, who I think it is, then yeah, they're a local entity, yeah. But I know Columbus City, basically all hands on deck has been what I've seen. They have some folks up at Red Roof Inn in Westerville, some folks at another hotel in Reynoldsburg. They've been very good about getting everybody out of the space. I know they were trying to let folks get in to get their things out, but at the same time, there are emergency issues that people needed really to evacuate. But Columbus City Schools, basically anybody you can think of, has been involved from what I've seen.
Any other questions for Zach?
Are there any residents still staying at Dog Park?
If I remember correctly, I think someone said tomorrow would be the last day that they would have folks at Dodge, but don't quote me on that. Last I heard, there were still some folks at Dodge.
Okay, hearing no other questions, thank you for your report. Okay, our next City of Columbus staff report is from City Council, our Division of Community Engagement. Avery Townsend is here. Hey, Avery.
Hi there. I wasn't here in December because I was really sick, but the main update is that I'm sure you already all know that Councilwoman Elizabeth Brown has accepted a position as the Executive Director of the YWCA. As a reminder, the rest of her term, it's just this year, so it's there's a vacancy for her seat. The hearing to fill that vacancy was actually at 5. It was still going on when I left with remarks from the 8 finalists, so there will be a vote on Monday for who is going to be filling that vacancy for the rest of the year. And as a reminder, she chaired the Finance Committee, Education and Recreation and Parks. So that's pretty much all I have. The first council meeting of the year is on January 9th, next Monday.
Any questions for Avery? Great, thank you for being here. From the Department of Neighborhoods, Ola BC.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone had a great holiday season. Just a few updates. The City of Columbus is hosting an Opportunity Rising Career and Resource Fair. That's going to be January 28th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Jerry Hammond Center on Broad Street. There will be workshops hosted across the city, to familiarize people with the process for applying for jobs with the city. There's actually going to be one here tomorrow, January 4th, of course, here from 4 to 7 p.m. They'll have resume assistance, interview prep, people available to answer any questions anyone may have. I'm more than happy to forward on the flyer for that. However, that did go out in the first West Side Bulletin of the year, which went out this afternoon. Hopefully all of you received it. If not, please let me know just so I can make sure I have your most up-to-date contact information. Next, I just wanted to give a quick recap on Song Sullivan. It was a success. We had nearly 300 kids receive presents from Santa and their families, other resources, including turkeys, hams, gift cards to Aldi and Kroger. So it was a great event, and thank you so much to the partners that attended and also that supported the event. Hopefully, this coming year, bigger and better. And then finally, I just wanted to give an update on Wedgwood. The city attorney's office spearheaded a meeting just to bolster up the community engagement within that complex. So we had our first meeting on December 15th. And right now we're working on mapping out resources that are currently being offered to residents in that apartment area, identifying gaps and creating an outreach calendar. So that are, those are our targets for the first quarter of the year to get those done. There was a coat giveaway there the following day. Also want to apologize again. I know I got some dates mixed up just in terms of the meetings and events happening in Wedgewood. We were able to work with the apartment manager to secure community space for every Friday for parents. So there is an open invitation to organizations that may have resources or knowledge that they feel residents of Wedgewood may need, just, you know, to be able to improve quality of life. So if anyone is interested in participating in that, the next meeting is going to be January 19th from 3:30 to 5. The location is to be determined. The last meeting was at My Project USA, but that has not been confirmed for January. So yeah, we will definitely be working on a collaborative effort to just increase community engagement in that area. Any questions for me?
So first, I want to thank you so much for getting information over regarding the transition from 300-gallon to 90-gallon trash cans over on the north side of the hilltop. That map especially is super helpful to me. But I wanted to see, is there going to be any follow-up regarding surveying members of our community to get information as to like how they are feeling about it, whether it's being successful or not, easily utilized, and is it actually cleaning up the trash?
That is a great question. More than happy to follow up with our refuse team just to see what engagement efforts they have lined up for the coming months. But yeah, that's a great idea.
No, that if you learn anything, we would love to see that on the at the area commission. We're happy to help get that out and promote that as much as possible. And then also, it's my understanding that there's going to be more transitions of that from 300 to 90. Do you know in what time that timeline kind of looks like yet, or are we still feeling it out?
Let's say I'm unaware. I'm more than happy to follow up with refuse to see if they have a more concrete timeline. They did say that they would be more communicative going forward. So I'll try and give you guys quicker heads up than, you know, a couple days beforehand. But yeah, I'll follow up on that.
I appreciate it. And I will say I am a big fan of my 90-gallon can so far.
No, I'm glad to hear it. I'll pass the word on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
Hold on, can you grab a mic?
Oh, yeah. It was just.
What's your name?
Charity.
What's your name? So people can hear. Yeah.
I did have a question about the difference between the trash containers. Where I'm at, we use the 900-gallon ones. And we have, in some houses, 15 people living in one house. So that means you got 15 times the garbage being collected out of one location instead of it being spread out. So we can't go to those small trash cans. There is no way we can go. Fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So there is the opportunity, if there is like, you know, more trash being generated by residents to be able to order an additional trash can.
We, every trash can gets, there's 15 people in every house.
No, I understand it. Of course, our refuse team, they're doing a lot of community engagement. There's a lot of great changes that are coming to help alleviate issues with trash in the coming year. I'm not at liberty to speak on that because, you know, I don't want to steal their thunder. They have a lot of great, they're doing a lot of great work. They have a lot of great things coming. But just to let you know that, you know, we do hear those concerns and then, you know, we are taking them into account, and we are going to be doing a lot of community engagement in the coming months just to let residents know about the resources that they have available to them to help alleviate trash issues in the community. And also, you know, especially with warmer weather, a lot more trash cleanups lined up and alleyway cleanups. More information will be forthcoming on that in a few months.
Thank you.
So thank you for your point about you can order an additional 90-gallon can. So you can have two, right? You could have two at your address. Can you have three? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either. Definitely.
I know you can have two, but I'm being serious. I mean, if you needed a third, could you order one, right? So we'll find that out.
I think
I don't know.
the city charges like $75 per extra.
They do, yeah, there is a
Extra
charge.
can.
I'm not sure how much. There is a charge. But I do know that there are efforts to be made to reduce people's trash consumption overall with like, more recycling pickup, more education on what can be recycled. So hopefully there won't be a need for additional trash cans in the future.
Understood.
Is
Great.
that a charge for additional, starting at 2 or starting at 3 or?
Starting to.
Charge for the can, not charge to be picked up.
Oh, yeah, charge for that.
Right, right.
But yeah, Bill, and that, a lot of times in those cases, it's just a, education gap on like, we call it recycling,
Sure.
yard waste. So, there's a lot that's coming down the pike. Like I said, I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. More coming.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And Zach, did you?
I did get an update on that. So Latitude has 30 days to comply violations and sell the property. If it is not done by then, and sold, receivers appointed. They are responsible for reimbursing all city overtime costs and all temporary housing costs for displaced residents. That was agreed to today.
Great, thank you.
What about like damages, like personal property?
I think that probably
Emotional
falls,
stress,
yeah, I think that probably
pet
falls
snatch.
under personal complaint. You have to, or a case they have to file against the owner individually.
Okay, our next city staff report was from Nick, but Nick did tell me he's not going to be able to be here this evening. So I've moved his larger presentation over a couple meetings, but would like to schedule him for next month to do kind of up-to-date report on the Envision Hilltop plan and kind of what's been happening. So Nick will be here next month. All right, so now we are on to announcements. Are there any announcements from any commissioners?
If you've not seen it, the red line exhibit that's at Glenwood Rec, it may still be there, it may not, but is it going now?
Yeah.
But what a great conversation that is to have in our community about the ongoing impact of redlining. And I was surprised to see how many people there were just learning some of the things that were discussed at that session. So it's going to be around for a while, maybe not at Glenwood, but try to find out where it is next and see if you could go see it. It's traveling the city and it's a great exhibit.
Thank you.
Speaking of the rec centers, today is opening registration day for rec center passes, class sign up for the winter session. We have 3 here on the Hilltop, Westgate, Holton, and Glenwood. There's a variety of classes. Our very own Commissioner Bates Fry teaches the yoga class on Wednesdays at Westgate. So, if that was one of your New Year's resolutions to get more active, sign up start today. I think are just for this week too.
I wanted to know, how do we know if we were signing up for your class? And then what time is it on Wednesday?
It's going to be on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock.
Perfect.
And it's just 45 minutes.
Perfect.
At Westgate.
Yes, ma'am.
The red line exhibit, just for anybody who wants to know, is at the Franklin Park Adventure Center right now through the 15th.
Starting on the 9th, going through the 15th. Yeah, and then after that, it'll be at the Reeves Center. After that, it'll be at OSU. It'll be back at the main branch of the Columbus Public Library. After that, Capital University is the final showing, it looks like. So if you just Google redesign the red line, you'll be able to find a calendar of where they're coming next. Thanks.
Another thing about recs and parks, we love recs and parks, right? So Westgate has a pretty large homeschool program. So if you know anyone that's homeschooling their students and need their extracurricular or any, art or dance or any of those pieces and parts, that's a good place to go. It's very affordable, and it impacts our students in their in quality education. So.
May I jump in with two quick items? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Yeah, please. For, I appreciate all of these. You sent out your newsletter. Two items that I want to highlight here that I just haven't heard yet covered so far tonight. And for anyone who's listening in or in the room who knows someone or they themselves are struggling with housing security, especially as the cold weather potential returns, there are day and evening or overnight warming centers available. Is it still currently available? You know, yeah, okay, so through March, Community Development for All People at Broad Street United Methodist and Summit on 16th United Methodist, which coincidentally was where my grandfather resided for many years. And there's a map through the city's GIS website if you want to find more information on that. And then just a quick congratulations to 3 Westside 614 Beautiful grant recipients. Sullivan Avenue murals from New City Homes in Franklinton. Also in Franklinton is the Artful and Interpretive signage. And then the Tell Your Story mural and space activation sponsored by the Hilltop Park Collective out here on the west side. So way to go, everyone. And we look forward to seeing these projects.
I'd just like to give updates on the zone in Columbus work that's being done. So I was asked to be on the committee for the zone in advisory committee. So we're having our 3rd meeting tomorrow. We've kind of been onboarding for the first couple of meetings. We got to get together and talk about, we've met with the consultants that have been working with the city over the last couple of years, I understand, to kind of do an assessment of our zoning, the ordinances, and kind of where we have some opportunities. It was really exciting to meet them, really exciting to kind of understand what they're, I brought the binder tonight if anybody wants to look at any kind of preliminary reports or anything like that, that's here just to share this with anybody that's interested. Tomorrow, I think we're gonna focus more on kind of the major corridors and kind of zoning related to corridor development. So more to come about that, but I just wanted to share that I'm continuing to go to these zoning Columbus meetings, and our next meeting will be tomorrow or afternoon. Any other announcements from commissioners? What about anybody attending today?
Maybe where's that zoning committee, where?
I will let you know. It's moved a couple of times. I will check my email, but it has been downtown at city offices. But is it okay after announcements? I'll let you know where the location is. I'll look it up. Yeah. James, you pass the mic to anybody else that has any other announcements from anybody attending this evening. None? Okay. Okay, so on to this, the agenda. Well, you know what, I always forget to do this. One of the things I like to highlight on the screen is just what the Greater Hilltop Area Commission and what the area commissions across the city are here to do. You know, Columbus City Code, it was established that area commissions would be set up across the city of Columbus. I think there are 21 of them to be exact, and we have kind of the largest area in the city of Columbus that we're here to. The area commissions were established to provide voluntary community participation and decision making in an advisory capacity, and to facilitate communication, understanding, and cooperation between neighborhood groups, city officials, and developers. Like to just bring that forward each time in case this is your first meeting, or like, what is this area commission supposed to do? This is per the Columbus City Code, what we're supposed to be doing in our neighborhoods and our communities, and what we're supposed to represent. So on to reports from officers. I wanted to tell you about the advisory committee. I don't have any other specific reports for this month. We have 2 officer positions vacant. Our treasurer position, Mr. Maddox has finished up his 3-year term, and then Mr. White has finished up his term also as our vice chair. So on to our secretary, Rachel Winning, if you have anything for a report for tonight.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. All right, so we do have a presentation this evening. Monique Sneed is here. If you don't mind coming up or standing up, we can have you there at the end of the table or whatever. This device here will pick up your picture that's on the table. So if you get close enough, people viewing will be able to see you. And then I'll just give you a microphone if you don't mind, just speaking in the microphone as you do your presentation. And then did you leave time for questions?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We have a presentation that we're gonna flip over to. Monique, if you'll just start and kind of tell us where you're from, what you do. Yeah, you could come up to where the speakers are and set your things down if you need a space.
We have one right back here.
Oh, should I hit it or no? I'll just take this so it doesn't squeak at you.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry if I sound a little breathless. I'm getting over a cold right now. But my name is Monique Sneed, and I work with the Columbus Care Coalition. I'm one of CARE's community liaisons. And so for some of you who may not be familiar with the Columbus Care Coalition, we are a collaborative effort aimed at addressing community violence, in particular gun violence, and we're led by Columbus Public Health. So CARE actually stands for Community Action, Resilience, and Empowerment. And we came together in, I'd say, early 2016. And we are now focused on making Columbus a trauma-informed community. And we can go to the next slide. And the next one too. And then one more. Yeah. So here are just a few of our goals. And so some of our goals include increasing education among Columbus residents and community service providers, building infrastructure for rapid response. Typically, whenever there's a homicide or any act of gun violence within Columbus, we'll go out and we'll pretty much canvass the area. We'll check in on residents within a 2-mile radius of where the incident happened. And we'll just see how people are. We'll just go door to door and also provide resources. We drop off resources. And then we also directly engage with residents who are experiencing trauma in high-risk neighborhoods. We contact next of kin who lose someone or who have had a youth involved shooting. We'll contact their parents and just check in on them as well and sit down with them. We have a team of social workers. And then we also would like to create a strong network of providers and community members. And that's what we do with our coalition that meets once a month. We have over 300 partners that we meet with on a monthly basis. Okay, so today I actually am here to talk about the project that we're about to start in the Hilltop area, which is Empowered Resilience. And so this project actually involves engaging with a small community within the Hilltop area. And so we'll be picking out a community and doing a series of collaborative meetings with them. And then with these collaborative meetings, we're hoping to identify key challenges within that community. Once we identify these challenges, we'll create an advocacy plan, and then we'll also work on collectively relieving these issues as a collective through like community organizing. This is very similar to one of our other projects that we have in the London area called One Block at a Time. Sorry, I'm being out of breath, guys.
Take your time.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, this is very similar to our project that we have in the Linden area called One Block at a Time. It's a year-long intervention. But this project is a shorter term intervention. It's 3 to 4 months at a time that we're working in a particular area. So that allows us to work with multiple communities within the Hilltop area within 1 year instead of just focusing on one block. And so if you go to the next slide, and then one more, and then we'll go back.
Do you want a chair? You want to sit in?
Yeah.
Would that help?
Yeah.
You can come up here,
Sorry.
or you can sit down there, whatever's comfortable.
It might be, so we can face
there?
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then so we interviewed a few key members. We interviewed Shelley from the Highland Youth Garden. We interviewed Pastor Orr. We also interviewed Nick and also Christina Diane. And a lot of the people that we interviewed suggested this part of Highland West. They suggested from Whitethorn to Eureka. as an area to focus on. A lot of them pinpointed this area because of the local elementary school. One of our interviewers told us that that school may be facing a possible closure, and that that's a pillar in the community, and that if that school closes, it affects the balance between the charter school and also the center, as well as the garden as well. And so we will be focusing on this entire area for this first pilot program. And then if you could go back one slide. There was also a few other areas that were suggested as well that we'll take into account after our first initial pilot program. But this is what the timeline looks like for this project. We're looking to have our kickoff partner meeting at Third Way Cafe on either January 23rd or on the 24th. We'll also be starting canvassing the week afterwards, so that last week of January and that first week of February. We will start canvassing every single block in that area that we highlighted. We'll be passing out flyers. We'll be talking to residents one-on-one about what to expect, what you'll be seeing and hearing from us as we come into their neighborhood. We'll also be setting up collaborative meetings. So this will be on the flyer as well. Pastor Orr has gratefully given us his community house to use. Thank you so much. It's on Eureka. It's right in the community. It's perfect. And we're looking to have 2 evening meetings, a morning and afternoon meeting, a Saturday one and a Spanish speaking one, because we know that that population in particular has a lot of Spanish speakers. And then after the collaborative meeting, we'll have a collaborative summary meeting where we'll come together, summarize the main points of what was talked about and discussed, and then we'll get down to creating our advocacy plan with the community. After the advocacy plan, we'll start implementing what steps we can take to alleviate these key issues. And typically the advocacy plan would include 3 or 4 challenges that the community members would like to highlight and work towards working on. And then we also put on trauma responsive care training, just because that's one of our goals, is the continued education around trauma-informed care approaches. This is not required. This is if a community desires it, but we have trauma-informed or trauma-responsive care trainers that are always willing to train people. We can go to the next one. Okay. So how can you help? We would love it if Hilltop members and Hilltop leaders came out and canvassed with us. I know, from just canvassing for our homicide, that people like seeing people's faces that they recognize and are familiar with. It's way more, it holds more ground when people know that you live in this area. We would also appreciate if you guys help us spread the word. Unfortunately, our flyer is not finished yet, but it will be soon. And as soon as it is, we will be sending it out to as many people as possible. We would love to invite you guys all to our kickoff meeting in the middle to late January, which I will also let you guys know once we know down the dates between 23rd or the 24th. And then we would also love for you guys to be there for our follow-up meeting. So after we have our 5 consecutive collaboration meetings, we'll have a collaborative summary meeting. We'd like you all to be there if you're interested in being there. Do you have a question?
I was just going to ask, do you know when the canvassing is going to be happening?
Yeah, so it'll be the last week of January and the beginning of February. And so we'll have the plan down for which dates we'll be going out on those weeks during the kickoff meeting.
When you finalize the kickoff meeting, how will you be communicating that with Hilltop residents?
Could you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Like the date of you're still finalizing the date of the kickoff meeting, right? How do you plan on getting that out there? Like, is Facebook the best place? Just go to your website?
Oh, for the community members or residents?
Community members.
Okay, for community members, the kickoff meeting, that is more so for the for people who will be helping implementing the project. For community members, the kickoff will be the collaboration meetings that we'll have with them. But I will be passing around a sign-up sheet if anyone is interested in signing up to help out and attend. Just have this discussion in November with us and, yeah, and Reverend Moore, so this is interesting, this is great.
So you're.
The only thing was that we were thinking, I don't know, I wasn't there part of the kickoff, but we talked about like identifying the streets that we really need to hit on and then having you guys engage and then other organizations and then connecting with those organizations as well. And our role is going to help facilitate this. So that, yeah, I mean, honestly, we just had.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all. That's it. They can hear you though.
So what Hannah was saying was that this collaborative approach and us realizing that our strength as a commission might not be to drive all of the work, but to work in collaboration with the city agency that has done the research and knows that it's evidence-based, that this makes more sense if what we're trying to fix is such a large problem.
So that's why our public safety committee recommended that when you come and do this presentation on this project tonight, so that we could get more information about it, how can we help, and then how can we just be part of this work? Yeah, part of this work on an ongoing basis. So.
In the beginning, you'd mentioned gun violence. So this is specific to crimes that are committed with firearms?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I would challenge the group, and I'm not sure that's never gonna happen, but I would challenge the group to look beyond just the firearm as the tool and look to see why individuals are committing the crime to begin with, or the violence to begin with, because the individual that uses a different tool or doesn't use a tool is only potentially doing that because they don't have access to a different tool. And so to kind of narrowly look at a situation as that's the issue, it kind of, I think we need to broaden just a little bit and look and see, why does somebody want to commit violence to begin with? Just because it's a gun that they had this time, next time it'll be a knife if you outlaw the gun, or we look at it that way. So that's why I just kind of look at the situation a little bit more broadly than narrowly saying just this one tool, because you move that, now you got thousands of other tools. Now we got to do it piecemeal every single time. Bigger perspective. That's my only comment.
Having been in some of the conversations, there is zero effort to remove or target the weapon.
Not thinking that.
But really a lot of intentionality around getting into the psychology of how do you alter that reflex and get folks to think about, you know, debate, discussion, walking away.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Is there a sense for aftercare regarding this? Because we could do all this, you know, preliminary, all these things, and it still happens, as we know. Is there any sense of what, if even if care is going to be a part of the aftercare and the aftermath of these things for our neighborhoods?
This is such a great question. Me and my supervisor were just talking about this today about what does it look like once we hit that 3-month, 4-month mark? Like, do we just leave? Do we just, you know, do we make a plan to come back every 6 months or every 3 months? And we honestly, we are still figuring it out right now. And so we are making a plan. We're probably going to be relying on a lot of our partners to kind of help us guide and kind of consider what's best for the Hilltop area, because we know that Hilltop looks very different from Linden. And so the plans are going to be very different. And so we're still figuring that out.
So I would also suggest, while we know it's Hilltop, you know, each individual is different. So when we talk about resiliency and support, you know, that may look different in that manner. So working with collaborating with other organizations and partners is going to be crucial in providing, you know, paths to solutions, right? So I would ask that you, and I would love to be a part of that conversation and be a partner in that.
So Mike, what would be your dream for these meetings, these 5 meetings that we're gonna have? Like, what would, in an ideal situation, what would they look like? Who would be attending? Just talk to me about that.
Back in 2021, we kind of fell into a somewhat of a similar intervention accidentally with the Bhutanese community. We were invited into their space back in April 2021 because they were having, there were lots of like acts of violence in the community. There's a sexual assault, and there was also a few like incidents of drug overdoses, and also people seeing like guns out, but there were never being any shootings. And so we were invited into this space, and we set up these debriefs, these collaborative meetings, and we were having them twice a week. And we had like a routine amount of like 5 to 6 people who would come to these meetings, and we would just talk about what issues were they facing, and they would just talk about, they would bring up the issues that we were called to come out, but they also brought up issues that we had no clue that they were experiencing, just things that I hadn't thought that they would have to deal with. But throughout that meeting, we started kind of naturally coming up with a plan of action, us coming up with like, oh, you know, we do know this resource. Perhaps we can invite them into this space for us to continue this conversation, because, you know, we're not expertise on this. So I would like for the Hilltop for us to also have a similar experience where maybe we're not bringing in 25 people or 30 or 40 people, but maybe we're starting small with 10 people, 15 maybe, and just having these conversations about what issues their families are facing and how can we just best relieve these issues. I think that would be great.
So that's helpful to me, thanks.
So the CARE collaborative started in 2016, I think you said. Did you start doing kind of that outreach after violent events in 2016? I think there used to be I think maybe the Urban League used to do that kind of outreach. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, but CARE actually started because of the incident that took place in the Hilltop in 2015. And so it was like a triple homicide
Or
in the
white.
Hilltop area.
Mhm.
And that pretty much propelled us into this organization. And it was the Hilltop's leader, I think their chaplain, that had reached out to CPH, and we convened with a group of partners that included NetCare, CPH's social workers. We also had CPD out there, and I believe we had another partner, and we just all came together and just started canvassing that entire Hilltop neighborhood. And we found that those conversations that we were having were they just made such a difference to the people that we were talking, that we decided just to continue just doing it over and over and over again. And so back in 2016, we were only in Hilltop and the Linden area. And just recently we branched out into the south side and now the east side, but we started in Hilltop.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Wenning, the program you referenced, the Urban League, they still do it, the GVI or gun violence interruption. And they're launching that on the east side as well. And it showed a reduction in violence. And so we're trying to work as best as we can, align with those principles that seem to have data that show that they're reducing occurrences of gun violence. Yeah.
Any questions from Commissioner?
Thank you for the presentation, Monique. My question relates to maybe the ability for you to cover the city or even just the Hilltop in general. And I appreciate seeing the map. And I live very close to where you are. And I know 1 or 2 other people in here live within that boundary that you demonstrated. And I appreciate the focus on it too, because of the potential for the school closure and the impact on the services in that region. But it's not the only part of this part of Columbus that have traumatic events that happen of all sorts. And so I'm wondering, how are you going to be able to keep up with it if we're not also trying to hit on the proactive, preventive side in terms of good education, good jobs for people, stable housing, the things that are those leading indicators and those community health indicators that then can bring someone to lash out or commit a violent act. Maybe it's just a broader statement for the group to consider is, I think it needs a 2-tier approach. Before we can get to that point, and then certainly after. But so I guess I'll ask a question when I see your hand up there too, is once this pilot, what it sounds like is a pilot, I don't know if you use that word or if I'm putting that in your mouth, where do you go from there? Where's the next destination? Where's the next geography? What comes after?
from what we've been discussing as a team, we plan to stay in the hilltop area. So once we, once we complete our pilot with this 3 month or 4 month program in the Highland West area, we will be staying and going into another area within the hilltop as well, whether or not that's Highland or not, but it'll still be in the hilltop.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll field questions about the presentation, about what we've been talking about, sure.
Okay, I was just holding the microphone.
Yeah, good pass.
I saw your hand too.
This sounds awesome. Could you give us an example of, maybe from the work in Linden on like what types of projects or what came from the planning process that they decided they wanted to work on?
With the one block at a time?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, so my coworker Diana, she is the lead for the One Block at a Time program. And so that is an intervention that actually came from I think from the Pittsburgh area. Yeah, they are doing something like this where they're taking one block and doing this transformative intervention with this block, building relationships, developing a plan with them, just having these really great open dialogue conversations, and just using that year just to kind of establish this neighborhood association, and then have people, lead their block, and also work on issues collaboratively together. And so they have implemented this in the Linden area with the Myrtle Avenue. So it's right across the street from Linden Rec. Perfect location for the pilot. And pretty much they meet once a month. I go to pretty much all their meetings. They had this really great collaborative kickoff in September that started off their year. And right now they're in the process of establishing leadership in the block. I think they've already kind of established 2 leaders, and the leaders are kind of they kind of lead different goals in a way for the block. And then they pretty much just, they're in the process of working towards their goals, or so alleviating them. But during that year, they also have these like intervention type interviews that they do with Diana and her staff that kind of identify key influencers to the neighborhood. And they also identify people who are key influencers but don't serve the neighborhood. And so they work with those people, and they work with the influencers in a way to not only help alleviate the typical issues in the neighborhood, but also help resolve issues between certain neighbors and relatives, even if they don't live on the block. It's so interesting what she's doing. And I love attending the meetings and seeing how they are pretty much taking steps to really make amazing changes together. And she's gotten a lot of like buy-in from the neighborhood. They have a really great rapport, and a lot of people are attending the meetings now.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question? I'll give it back to the community. I want to just kind of piggyback off of Joe's question, and this is going to be broader than what you talked about, but since you are city affiliated, or you're within kind of city bounds, and this is a question that I ask most presenters, but are you able to advocate outside of your project scope? Are you able to, pinpoint if there are other kind of tangible changes that can happen that are going to impact kind of community relationships and community, like the way we view our own neighborhood and the way we view like how we're connected to our neighbors? So if you view like walkability as something that's going to impact community safety, you're going to see like, this neighborhood needs better street lighting, like people aren't safe just in their environment, let alone like within the relationships. Are those things that you and this organization can kind of help advocate for, and something that, we're calling for? But it's like these bigger, broader structural things that, like, on top of the relationships, on top of the care part, is that something that you're like willing and able to help us advocate for?
We're definitely willing, and able to, but at the same time, I think there definitely are limits in what we can and can't do. And so that's why that's why I'm kind of here today, kind of asking for people to help support this project, because where I have limits, you guys don't. And so that's where I'm hoping the balance will be, with getting support from other political leaders within the Hilltop area.
But this is what we talked about, connecting with different organizations, and then, you guys would help us facilitate that.
Okay. What I'm guess I'm getting at is that, you know, as someone who works directly for the city, sometimes you have the inroads that we don't have, and that's all I'm gonna.
She says she can add to it, because that's her supervisor.
Oh, that's not her supervisor.
Oh, sorry.
So I know you've seen me in the meetings before, because I am the, just like Monique, she is the Linden, community liaison, I'm the Hilltop community liaison. And so yes, just to answer some of the questions of Commissioner Maddox and others, to answer your question, yeah, we have certain limits, but we partner with Avery, we partner with that client, and so we have a 311, can you say, hey, the residents in this community, this is their concern, can you help us out with whatever it is? And then Josh Maddox, Commissioner Maddox, said something about, okay, it's not just about the guns, it's about the psychology and so on and so forth, and we do provide those trainings. We provide trainings for trauma resilience. Anybody can participate in that. Anybody can request a training. We have some trainers here, Pastor Orr, Malik, myself. And then we also have information about COPE, where you can canvass the community after a homicide. Anybody can do that. You just have to go to a little training. And so I'll have this information. I'll have my card out here as well. But yeah, all those concerns, I mean, this is a great project. We talked about it on the Public Safety Committee, and we talked about it, and this is good. And it's not us coming in to tell the community what to do. We're working with the community to see what the community wants and what they need, and then we can partner with city agencies and go from there.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Betty James, and kind of piggybacking on what Leah was saying. Several years ago, it might have been after that 2016 homicide, Emerald Hernandez ran a program, and they went out post-violent event and did a holistic review. And to your point, are there environmental conditions, physical factors, lack of lighting that either contributed to it or might prevent another one? Is that program still in place?
I'm not familiar with it.
I mean, it's been probably, last time I met with her was probably 2017, probably 2017, maybe 2018. I don't even know if she's still in the city.
She
No, she
moved to a
is.
different role,
Yeah.
and I don't think we've had a walk in a while, because we would usually go out to the site, walk the neighborhood, and just kind of inspect.
Well, that's kind of what Commissioner Bruno was saying is, could we have something like that that does kind of a holistic review afterwards? I mean, that was a great program. I don't know if it continued. It doesn't sound like it did.
Yes. We'll finish with this one.
Could you tell us just briefly what that trauma responsive care training entails?
Yeah, so the trauma responsive care training is a series where basically you can have a trainer come out to either an organization or a church or just some kind of gathering. We've done it at schools as well, where a group of people can get trained in trauma-informed care approaches. This training is kind of adapted from the work of Mary Vicario, based out in Cleveland. And I believe it's about a 4-part series for the trauma, or a 6-part series.
I don't remember how many hours each is.
Yeah,
60 hours?
I felt 60 hours.
60 hours.
And so the Columbus Care Coalition, we host this training about once a year if anyone is interested in becoming certified, where you just take part in it for once a month for about 8 hours for up to 6 months' time.
We could ask our community relations committee to try to grab all this information and put it out on our channels.
Sure.
Just about the different levels, everything from the smaller training that you said you could do potentially to the other stages. I know there's different levels and time commitments and things like that, right? But it would be interesting to get that out. And then Octavia, whatever you're passing with the flyer that you have this evening, that we'll leave here, we'll make sure to get that out on social media channels and through email. There is a question on social media, Facebook.
How many streets or blocks do you start with?
So I think on that map, we had about 6 or 7 blocks on that map. Yeah, about 7 blocks or 8. And right now, we were looking on shrinking it, but we don't want to shrink it because Whitethorn, we've been on this street several times this year, or well, in 2022 due to homicides. And so it's very important that we keep Whitethorn on. And then Eureka, because Pastor Orr's house is there as well. So that's why we kept the range as we did. But yes, for this pilot, we're being very ambitious by starting with 7 to 8 blocks. In the future, we may look at shrinking it or increasing it. But we will not go past or Palmetto.
First of all, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Excited to hear more about this. I'm excited to participate in this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have jumped all over the agenda tonight. I was so excited to do this presentation. I jumped over all the reports on our committees and you're following along. So we didn't have many committee meetings in the month of December. So I do want to start with our zoning committee and our chair, Rachel Winning. We do have one item that isn't specifically listed on the agenda. And I can help you. I put it on the slide if you want to reference it.
Yeah, so we had a request for a demolition permit come in, and they were kind of in a hurry to get this approved. We typically discuss them briefly at the zoning committee meetings, but we didn't have a committee meeting in December, so wanting to basically just take a quick, I think, vote on this. The request is to demolish a property which is at 1716 Union Avenue. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but I had noticed it just looking at Zillow as I do constantly. It noted that this building needed a complete rehab when it was listed for sale, so it was sold a number of months ago. And so the current owner is now wanting to demolish this building. If you take a look at it, there's nothing historic about it. It looks like it was, I'm not sure what year it was built in, but doesn't seem to have any historic importance. It's not, not to denigrate anyone, but it's an ugly building. And so I don't personally see any issue with approving this demolition permit. Yeah. It honestly looks like a very large garage, but
Yeah, I was
apparently
gonna ask if you know what the use was.
it was habitable. I think it's listed as a 2-bedroom apartment, or at least one apartment.
I mean, Zillow said it was a 2-bed, 1-bath, 945
Yeah.
square foot home that sold for $85,000.
Ocean view.
You got a picture for sale too.
Yeah, so I didn't see any pictures of the inside, but the outside was.
Do we have any idea of what they want to do with it?
No, the request is just for
Doesn't really matter for the
demolition.
demolition.
I think they also bought 2 adjoining parcels that are vacant, so they could be.
They might be throwing up a few houses.
On all of them.
We're looking at pictures and it's not a habitable structure.
Right, I mean, not at this point, obviously, but at some point recently, someone was in it.
And the neighbor who lives across the street, or the 2 who are right across Union, they probably would also want to see, I don't want to put words in it, but did you know what their preference would be at this point?
No, the public doesn't get any notice of the request for demolition permits, and we don't send postcards on that either.
So once this request goes in, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's 60 days for anybody to object or kind of give support or whatever. So because we didn't have a zoning meeting, as Rachel said, our opportunity won't happen again until after the 60 days, by the time zoning meets again. So we could, if we were to say we don't have any objections to this demolition, it could speed things up by a week and a half.
So if anyone has any objection, I'll ask that first, I guess. And then, I guess I will ask for a voice vote. All in favor of, I guess, not approving, but not objecting to the demolition request, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you.
The applicant may be watching, just let you know that, well, what's our process then? We will email.
I can click yes. Does that work?
Yeah, there's a link in the email that we receive about these things to give any kind of a response. And so you'll just be able to do that here in the next couple of hours. Okay, great. Anything else about the zoning committee?
Our next meeting will be January 17th at 5:30 p.m. here at the library. If I continue to chair zoning, I'm planning on probably moving meetings to 6 p.m. start. But for this next month, we'll keep it at 5:30. Again, that's January 17th. We do have two applications, well, two addresses. There's actually two requests for 3440 West Broad. One request is to rezone a portion of that property to M, and then another request to permit motorcycle storage. I guess this is a former bowling alley, but I haven't looked at it.
It's the old one.
Yeah. Oh, it's where I Caramba.
Yeah, that's what it's
There's,
saying.
they're already.
Well,
It's
we'll
been
check.
like that. It's just bike sale, sell bike parts.
We'll check and see if they have any violations so far. So that request for 3440 West Broad, and then we will also hear the request for special permit, which is for that taco truck to be parked overnight for 2327 West Broad. Those are the only two issues that I currently have on the agenda, along with, I think I received one other demolition request as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just as this kind of relates, I said I would give the location of where the Zone and Advisory Columbus meeting is going to happen. It's tomorrow, 4 o'clock at the 141 North Front Street. It's the corner of Long and Front, and it's in the community room that's located there in the city garage. Okay, so Community Relations Committee, any report?
We don't have anything to report.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. When's our next meeting, Josh?
24th.
January 24th.
Next meeting of Community Relations will be January 24th.
At 7 o'clock at, what is that place called?
Design Refinery?
Design Refinery, thank you. I'm sorry. Really?
Great, thank you. On to our Government and Legislation Committee, our co-chairs, Leah and Jen.
Ditto to the previous announcement. I will, this is like a broader government legislation, just kind of general announcement. The Ohio legislature voted on their speaker leadership today. The opening of General Assembly was today, so just get ready for some new bills to be announced in the next couple of months. It's budget season also, so if you work for organizations who are going to be requesting money, if you have other connections to city, local government that you know are going to be requesting money, contact your state representative. That's all.
Also, fellow commissioners, so should Leah and I choose to run for re-election next year, we can't be chairs of government and legislation. So we need our fellow commissioners to start considering chairing or co-chairing the committee for next year. So just to put that little bug in your ear.
Next year or this year?
This year.
Okay.
Yeah, this year. Hi, I just figured out how to write 2023 on my work docs today. So a little behind mentally.
So our remaining committees, I'll just ask if any chair has any reports for your committee. the Human Services and Education, Liquor Permit Review, our Planning and Economic Development Committee, Public Safety and Recreation and Parks.
Human Service and Education, I have an update on the letter that the commission approved back in November. That's still making its way around. I've asked Avery, once she gets the new council members' contact information, to share that with me so I can get that letter over to them. Still reaching out to City Columbus schools to figure out what's going on over there. I know they've had some shakeup with some city or some staff over there. So like I said, we're probably going to push that meeting back to March, just to allow for the new committee chair to come in February, because I haven't got over that committee, and as well to give more time for people to respond so that we can actually have a full, well-rounded meeting. Again, that's in regards to the letter that the full commission approved when it comes to the far west area of the hilltop, when it comes to services that community is lacking. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any of our other committee chairs have any other reports?
We're not going to be meeting this month on planning and economic development. So that's the only update I have.
Okay, no meeting for planning and economic development in the month of January.
Parks and Rec will be pushing out a full calendar for this year's park audits, walks, and cleanups. So please be on the lookout for that. I believe we're going to be getting up, let's say it was like somewhere between 6 and 9 parks we're going to try to get to this year. We're going to redo their audits to get a better current 2023 grade on those. Starting next year, all of the parks will be in like a rotation. So every other year they'll get regraded. Those will get sent over to the city for more or less review. We'll have an actual discussion and talk about ways to improve services to our community through parks and recreation.
Great, thank you. So just a reminder that, the major work of this group happens in these committees. Anybody's welcome to attend any of these committees. And if you go to our website, cbusareacommissions.org, you can see all the area commissions across the city, and you can find Greater Hilltop there. If you scroll down on the webpage, you'll see a calendar for each month, and you'll see these committee meetings on the calendar, what the name of the committee is, where it's going to be, and what time. So if you are interested in January, February, March, whatever, attending one of these committee meetings, you're welcome, always welcome to attend. So the times may change from time to time, but once we get into a rhythm, they kind of stay the same day of the month, second Tuesday of the month, third Thursday of the month, kind of a rotation like that. So always welcome. And even if you can only come to one meeting and then miss 3, that's fine too, right? Just come when you're able to. So.
And just to add to that, anybody at home, please be advised that you are able to attend any meeting and sit on any committee meeting and have your voice heard. We, as a, I say formerly we, but everybody in this room is here to serve the Hilltop in any facet that they actually can. And we're all here to listen to our neighbors, our community members, our business leaders. We're here to support our community. So don't think at any point in time that your voice doesn't matter, because you have a voice. You're allowed to vote. What we do is because of everybody that lives in our community. So please attend the committee meetings. Please show up. Please leave comments on the Facebook page. It goes a long way.
Great, that's a great segue to unfinished business on the agenda, because I'm going to ask Simon. I wasn't here last month for the meeting, and I know that an item of business last month was to take a look at the work that the Planning and Economic Development Committee did on this land bank property development form. And there was a great discussion last month about this form. And I tuned in and I watched, and at some point there was a discussion about whether or not we should vote on this, right? So I brought it forth on the agenda as something I think that we should consider discussing and then put a vote on. I think the discussion was at the last meeting that this would, if we did vote, let's say the vote was to approve this review form in its current fashion, that then the committee would be kind of forced to use it, right? Until they develop something different that was voted on. It would kind of institute this a bit, right? So I thought there was some value in that, to at least have a discussion. I think there was a healthy discussion about this before. I don't know that there's much to discuss, but I'm gonna put it out there for discussion and then eventually make a motion regarding this form. The motion would be to, let's take a vote on using this. So anybody that's not heard this before, anybody that, you want to summarize what this work?
Yes.
If you would do that.
So recently, the Columbus Land Bank has recommended and asked property buyers and developers of land bank properties to address their area commissions, neighborhood area commissions in the communities that they are going to be buying land bank property from. Because of that, we wanted to formalize a process of gathering information from these purchasers of land bank property. So we went through this and we just added a bunch of questions that we are going to ask purchasers of land bank properties to provide the Planning and Economic Development subcommittee before that meeting. This includes architectural design documents, including blueprints, elevations. Have you purchased any land bank properties before? If so, where? Can you provide any similar project addresses or documents that you've worked on? Have you had code violations? How does this meet the requirements within the envisioned hilltop plan, specifically the home pillar? Will this be affordable, low income, workforce, market rate? Do you plan to rent or sell or occupy this property? If you plan on selling, what will the expected sale price be? If you're renting, what is the expected rent price? Will this property be tax abated? And if you're planning on renting the property, please provide other rental property addresses that you own. And then finally, please send the 10 closest properties to the planned development and the Planning and Economic Development chairs postcards inviting them to the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting that you'll be presenting at with specifications, and they need to be postmarked at least 2 weeks prior to the Development Committee meeting. Based off our discussion if anybody has any edits or questions regarding that, we would love feedback.
Doesn't the land bank already ask for that information?
It's not provided to the area commission.
So why don't you just request it from the land bank? Instead of creating another level of bureaucracy. You gotta go there. If the land bank already, or the city already has that information, correct? And they've already provided?
Not necessarily. I mean, specifically.
I had to provide blueprints and everything to the city. I did everything that you just said. I gave it to the city. So all you have to do is get that information from the city.
This questionnaire goes into details about how this complies with the Envision Hilltop plan, what the, end goals of the property are, what type of market rate it's gonna be.
Yeah, that should already be factored into that.
They're not asked by the land bank. So this is also just demonstrates.
I bought from the land bank and I am aware of how it works. I had to provide blueprints, landscaping, everything to the city of Columbus before it got approved.
Thanks. Thank you. I understand. So the comment is this may be repetitive information.
What I'd love to share with you, Simon, or Commissioner Dallas, is what I really enjoy about this is that it begins to make us think in the way of Envision Hilltop. And it kind of forces you to understand kind of the buckets that exist in our community as we grow. And I think more of us need to think like this. And so this might be the one of many more to come that help us to think in those buckets of, what is it again? Place, home, and people, which I don't think many of the existing forums kind of do for us, is to help us to understand that that's our mission right now, is place, homes, and people. And thank you for this.
I want to just add to that, Commissioner Moore, in that when I go to the zoning portal and I'm looking at information and on that checklist, when there's community group, have they been, talked to for things that we see come up with zoning, it's typically blank. There's usually not ever it's not usually in compliance with that issue. It needs to be, but, so this forces them to come to us. And I want them to, because I want to know what's going to go in. And I want to hear about it, and I want to hear from them. And this allows us to have the team.
When I did it, I had to give them everything. I had to give them what type of windows was going to be used, what type of door was going to be used, what was going to be done inside the house, what was going to be done on outside of the house. The landscaping had to be approved.
Of course.
Understood. You've met the
Point of order.
comment. I understand. So let me just respond to commissioners, right? About this voting process is that we are getting emails, and correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have anything to say to this person that wants to purchase this land bank property? Do you have any objections? Do you support it? That will come on and talk to us, right? And so then we're dependent on somebody to have a presentation, to tell us what they're gonna do. These are the questions that we would like them to be able to say, either to the land bank, send them that information, or here's what I'm gonna tell you about. I am all about not making duplicative work for somebody that wants to try to do good work. So if we can get to a point where we see it's duplicative, but we've had how many, couple of them come forward so far, and we have no information. And so I just wanna make that point, that that's been our experience up till now, is that they're like, what do you think? And then we're like, we've got somebody sitting in front of us, and we start going down a list of questions, and they're like, I would have been happy to provide all this information if somebody would have asked me, right? So.
We were required to.
Yeah, I
We had to even
understand.
list the
Was-
types of shrubbery we would be.
Understood.
Was that within the past year, or was that 18 or so years ago?
7 years?
All right, so hold on one second. Ashley had a question or comment. And then I'm gonna kind of rope this back into, we're gonna finish having a discussion about whether or not we're gonna bring a motion forward to see if we're gonna approve this or not. But what was your comment, Ashley?
I was just gonna respond to Terry. So I'm the chair of the Vision Hilltop Home Subcommittee. So I helped Simon and Victoria put this together to make sure it goes within the home pillar of the plan. This is a new process. So the things that you're talking about are more like blueprint focused. They're trying to figure out if it's someone like you, of like you're buying the property, or if it's someone like an investor buying the property.
The same
And those are
questions are
different
asked.
things.
But the same questions are asked.
Understood.
Apply for anything to the land. All these questions.
That information is not shared.
Yes, it is.
With the
But
commission.
they can ask for it.
Okay, thank you for your comment, Ashley, and then Joe's got a comment.
Do we know, in fact, that we would be bound to this for any certain amount of time,
No.
or?
No, so I think like depending on, and we talked about this, is that like it can be changed based off of what we begin to see come through planning and development. I think the only outstanding thing that we had was if nonprofit organizations came through to buy land bank property, would they necessarily have to go do the same thing, or would it just be slightly similar, but they won't answer the questions that pertain to them?
Okay.
Per se.
So what I'm hearing is if we vote and adopt this version, we can still make changes,
And then you would have to revote. of
and then we
course,
just
those changes.
revote. And do we know if that would then inhibit the process at all, or delay anything, just at that time? Because I just don't want us to get choked into a process and then be now months behind when we have other questions that we want to ask.
Yeah, so this is something that we're definitely in the subcommittee going to revisit. This by no means is something that we are, beholden to. I think Dan wants to vote on it just to give it, make sure that we're actually utilizing it in future. Until something is changed in it, we have like it officially adopted by all of the commissioners. Additionally,
Because what's gonna happen tonight is we're gonna elect new officers, whoever's chairing this group, well, then we'll assign committee chairs for all of that work. And then, whoever the chair is, except, what committee would you like to be on will be your preference, and then the chair will make assignments, right? So if Simon is or isn't, chairing the committee, will this work continue? I think that we can ask that it continue for sure. I was just saying, is it worth putting it up for a vote to kind of institutionalize this for the next couple of committee meetings or whatever? If the committee ever wants to bring it back and say, we've kind of crosswalked this information and some of this is duplicative, we could probably take some of this off, we could probably get this in other ways, and we could bring it back, right? And say, here's kind of a new revised slimmed down form, or it's been blown out because we had other questions we didn't realize. But just given the fact that the year's turning and all this is going to change, just wanted to put it out there tonight for potential vote.
And at the committee, we do feel that this is necessary.
And hearing that now, by having the stamp of approval from potentially a majority of the commissioners, then that also sends a message to building and zoning, cert, whoever gets this after us, as well as whoever this developer may be, that we need business. So I would support a vote on it, so long as we can change it if we have questions or issues.
Yeah, it could be changed. The committee just brings it forward and says it's an item of business and we can talk about it. All right, so I'm just going to make a motion at this point to approve the use of that form when somebody that wants to or has purchased a land bank property and wants to develop that they would be given this form and that they would complete it to the best of their ability and bring that information with their presentation to the Planning and Economic Development Committee.
Second.
The second, thank you. All right. Well, let's just do a voice vote. I'm fine with that. So everybody in favor of instituting this form and moving it forward, say aye. Aye. Is anybody opposed? Anybody who abstained? Right, so the majority would be, we would vote to use this form on an ongoing basis, realizing that it can be brought back for a discussion in another meeting. We need to. Thank you for everybody's help with the discussion. Yeah.
Two just comments online. One says, sounds like the city may have changed their process. And a second, why not find out the information first?
Yeah, helpful. You know, just to prevent duplication, we could always say to somebody that's filling out the form, you know, if they put on the form provided to the city, you know, and we or the land bank, we could potentially, you know, take that as an answer and just bring that information along. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, so the second item for unfinished business is we have an appointed seat open. We have 15 area commissioners. There are 3 appointed seats, and one is currently vacated by James White, who was in that position. And so
Dan, I don't think your microphone is on.
Thank you. Probably.
Right.
It might be dead.
No, I just don't think you turn it on. I appreciate your support. I really do. That's awesome. I would never have known it was. So the second item of unfinished business is we do have an appointed seat open. And so the process, the way our bylaws dictate this, is that currently seated commissioner can nominate somebody that for this position. So do we have any nominations this evening for the appointed seat?
I'll reiterate my nomination that I made at the last meeting, which is for James White. Just based on my experience with Mr. White, he's been, I would say, a key member of the commission for the past 3 years. Have been proud to serve alongside him, and he has really done a great job, especially with the parks, implementing new processes and really advocating for changes to our parks, which are really beneficial to our community. So I would nominate James White for that seat.
Any other nominations for our appointed seat from the commissioner? Mr. White, would you accept the nomination? I accept. You accept. Great. So I don't think we have to vote at this point. You've accepted it. So welcome back to the commission. This is fantastic. So I think there's a process. We'll have to submit your name to the city as the appointed seat, and then we'll wait to hear back the approval process. There'll be a letter from the mayor welcoming you back to the commission, and you're welcome to attend any meetings. Don't know that you can be a voting member until we get that approval back. That should happen sometime in January, I would say. So great. So this is exciting. On to new business. So the next item is to elect officers for this next year from January through December. So I think the way this is supposed to go, we're supposed to start with the chairperson. So
Would any commissioner like to nominate anybody, or would you like to nominate yourself to fulfill the role of being the chair for the Greater Hilltop Area Commission?
I nominate Dan Fagan for chair of the area commission for the next coming year.
I don't think you can do that.
I think I can do basically whatever I want. So if somebody would like to second my nomination for Dan, then
Okay.
since I
I
can't.
unnominate.
Just
Dan
nominate.
Boyd. I will nominate Dan Fagan for chair. And I just wrote a couple sentences so I don't forget anything. I think that Dan has done an excellent job as chair during 2022. He has kept our meetings moving, handled more delicate issues with grace, more grace than I was able to do when I was chair for a year. He's diplomatic and thoughtful, which are really important traits in a chair. And he also has some really great big picture ideas for improving the commission as a whole. He doesn't just do things because they have always been done that way. He's always looking to improve our communication and efficiency and our relationship with residents. So I would wholeheartedly nominate Mr. Fagan.
Here.
Anyone else?
Nobody wants to do the job, huh? So I will say that yes, I'd be happy to accept the nomination. So I'll be our chairperson for the next year. So the next officer position, because it was vacated by James White, is our vice chairperson. So is there a nomination? Leah?
I am very excited to nominate Commissioner Bates Fry for this position. I did not plan ahead to write prepared remarks, but I have thoroughly enjoyed serving on the commission with you this past year. I believe Victoria has really demonstrated a commitment to this work and to our neighborhood. And I know she would serve us well in the role.
I'd like to second that.
Legal second that. Great. So we have a nomination for Victoria Bates Fry. Anybody, any other nominations?
Did you say she accepted?
I didn't ask.
Can you, would you like to accept the nomination? I'd say anything on your behalf.
Okay, you'll accept.
If you have
That's
anything you want to
awesome.
say on your own behalf.
Well, I'll say that I've been a resident on the Hilltop for 37 years. And I've always been engaged in the community in a number of different levels. I've been in education for a very long time. And my passion is to help the residents of the Hilltop, especially those who are underserved and underappreciated, which historically has been all of the Hilltop. So I will say that I'm glad to see the strides made, and I duly accept the nomination because I love to work underneath. Figure it all out. Yeah.
Great. So she's accepted the nomination. Any other nominations for vice chair? So commissioners? Well, there's no voting that has to happen. Congratulations. Now we're getting into the real tough jobs. We have a secretary position that's open. So does anybody have a nomination for secretary?
I would like to nominate the Joe Argero for secretary of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission for the coming year. He's new, and that makes him a great candidate.
I second.
I believe seconds the nomination of Joe Argero for our secretary.
Any challengers?
Definitely not.
Yeah. Well, I do accept.
You do accept, okay.
I accept because I think this would be a great way to learn some of the inner workings and see how the leadership structure works. But then also, really get the knowledge of the parliamentary procedures and the votes. And I think that'd be a good skill enhancement being part of this. So thank you.
Good, thank you, Joe. So I want to make sure, are there any other nominations for secretary from any other commissioners? Somebody else, yourself? All right, congratulations, you're our new secretary. And our final officer position is our treasurer position, and that's vacant right now. So I'm going to accept any nominations for treasurer from our commission. I'd like to nominate Josh Paxton for our treasurer position.
Second.
You'll second that. Thank you, Leah.
Accept.
You accept? Great. Wow, we've already, does anybody else want to nominate another commissioner for our treasurer position or yourself? This is just going so well. Congratulations, Josh. You're a new treasurer. All right, so the final bullet under new business is, all commissioners, would you send me your committee preferences as soon as possible and before our next full commission meeting? So let me know again what committees you would like to be a part of, and then I'll be appointing chairs to each one of our committees here as soon as I get all those preferences. Yeah, I've got a, Lisa, you have a question?
Sorry, please let me know if my memory is failing, but I remember during the last meeting, there was discussion about potentially reorganizing committees.
We did.
All in groups.
So I just wanted to know whether that was still in play, and if so, there would need to be a bylaw amendment for that, and of course, like discussion, so just wanted to remind you.
Oh, I was gonna also ask that question, and I would say for the bylaws, we're not renaming any of the committees, and they are still like technically individual committees that would just be happening together. Because, yes, we knew we would have to do bylaws, and that's a hassle. So this way, there are still options, and Dan, correct me if that is.
No, I think, Luis, what I could do is summarize what our activities will be. I think that I don't think it's going to require bylaw change, but I'll let you review it and take a look at what our proposal is. All the committees would just be kind of gathering, so we have less meetings. Because right now, if you look at all of our different committees, anybody, even the chair is supposed to try to attend all these. It's about 10 or 11 meetings a month just for committee work, right? So it makes some sense to kind of bring some of them together. And so there'll be agendas, there'll be public safety, liquor permit, if they join together. And so, but I'd love for you to take a look at it and make sure that you and the Department of Neighborhoods are comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Since you weren't here last week, I had mentioned this to James, but as you're going through committee assignments, this probably already crossed your head, but are we planning to group people? So if, trying to think of what was grouped, like if planning and economic development is grouped with Parks and Rec, would it be the same commissioners assigned to both of those committees? So they're not having like one group of people coming in and then they're leaving halfway through the meeting, even if it's like overlapping. You be conscious about, like, you're assigned to both of them, because the work is going to be similar, and the meeting is the same date.
No, it does make sense to align yourself with the committees that will be meeting at the same time, right? So it might be helpful for us to have those committees grouped before you make your selections, is what you're saying.
And then folks could even say, like, I have a specific interest in sharing this committee, but I would like to just be assigned to group one.
Yeah.
And like, or group one and group two.
Okay.
I don't know what that looks like on your end, but that was just my request, I guess. Maybe you're annoying parliamentarian and say, if we have a joint committee meeting where we have a quorum of commissioners and we vote on an issue, do we then have to accept that vote at a full commission meeting?
So that's a great, I don't know if everybody could hear that. So if we combine two committees that there's like five members each, that becomes 10 commissioners out of 15, right? So we now have a full commission meeting happening where we haven't invited everybody there. So what I was envisioning at first was that there would be committee work on the agenda, saying, the committee is meeting for the first 30 minutes around this, and then we would move on to the business of the other committee. And like the next thing, we have to have an agenda. It would have to be, have a time, have an order of work. And so then if something came to a vote in front of a committee, you'd have to be assigned to that committee, right? So Malik, you're on the public safety committee, but you're not on the Rex and Park committee, and you guys are meeting at the same time. So you could participate in the committee and its work, which would give you an opportunity to do more work, but then we'd have to separate the business of those committees. But I'd love your input on that as our parliamentarian. Because I honestly, that's how I envisioned it, but maybe that isn't how it can work.
I don't have to research it.
Okay. Rachel's gonna help me research it. And so I'm just gonna ask for purposes of moving this business forward, go ahead and give me your committee preferences. It doesn't have to be 3. I mean, it could be 1, 2, or 3. No more than 3, at least 1. Ideally, I'd like to see 2. I'd like to see that. And then think about kind of naturally where groupings might occur. So think about this. If you then only needed to come to 2 meetings a month, besides the full commission meeting, like a couple committees are meeting together, and you then go to that, and then you put Peel out because business is now in a new committee, but you can go to 1 more meeting in the month. You're down to 2 meetings. We have to think this through. I want your committee assignments, no more than 3, no less than 1. You can just email those to me, it'd be great.
Is there a deadline?
Yeah, definitely. I'm supposed to, our bylaws say I'm supposed to announce committee membership at our next full commission meeting, so I need them at least no later than 3 weeks from now. Whatever that date would be, Tuesday. How about the 23rd, January 23rd? By January 23rd, give me your, email me your committee preferences. Yeah.
Our zoning meeting is the 17th. Can I just ask the current zoning members who are still on the commission attend that meeting?
Yeah, I thought about that. That was like an interesting thing is we've kind of changed our bylaws. Rachel's our chair. I'd like to go ahead and say that I'd like to have Rachel continue to be our chair. I think I can make that announcement now. I don't know that I need to wait for that. So does that help?
It helps, but I don't know who else would be
Yeah,
on.
who else is on the current? So
We have enough people who are still on the commission. Sean is the only one who is not here.
understood.
But I
Yeah.
don't know if you want all those same people.
Yeah, so this is a, so everybody that's currently on the zoning committee, I'm gonna ask that you attend our zoning committee meeting on the 17th and represent our committee for 1 more month. I don't know how that, it's just, there's a gap in our bylaws now, right? That I hadn't thought through. I thought about it the other night, but I thought, oh, we're gonna have meetings before our next full commission meeting, right? So what does that look like? Anybody currently on the zoning committee, come back and you're voting. We do have applications that are coming. So if you're currently on the zoning committee, come to the 17th meeting. Rachel will chair that meeting. We have business that is on the agenda and we'll take it from there. And then if there's any change to the zoning committee, we'll begin that in February. You all right with that? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Okay, thank you everybody for being here this evening. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to adjourn our meeting. We finished the business for this evening.
Before you do that,
Okay.
I just want to officially welcome Commissioner Stryker, Commissioner Ardro to the Greater Hilltop Area Commission.
Yes.
We're very happy to have you both. Thank you for serving with us for the next 3 years. And now I second your motion to adjourn.
You second it. Everybody in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Great, thank you.
And we'll take that back.
I would thank you. I would.
Thanks for your patience. You've been super good.